Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name is Amasid and today I'm going to walk you all through my early Atlas passive tree as well as my mid-game Atlas passive tree. Now, or really more like early to mid-game because it's kind of just before you start to get into scarabs and where you also, are still wanting to drop higher map tiers and things like that. So not quite the true like mid-late game, but more like the early part of the mid-game. So let's walk through the early part first. So what's changed with the Atlas, right, since last league? Not all that much. A few major changes, but the actual fundamental core of the Atlas passive tree is pretty much the same. Now, in terms of what we're moving forward with, they've added a lot of keystones as well as these other kind of preventative nodes, right, that say you have no chance to spawn X in your map. And these are really powerful and I think really important in building out the new Atlas. So let's walk through what I'm focusing on. So in the early game, sort of like the core of the tree is going to be focused on strong boxes and essences. Now, beyond this is when you'll start to move into these other areas. Now, this is again just be my personal tree for the early to mid game. We'll have, the things that I want to focus in on, but again, there's no right or wrong here. This is just what I know is profitable and what I know you can use to make money and I've made money with in the past. So looking at the nodes here, I specifically took out 5 things that I do not want to see in my, even in my early game, right? So I took out Breaches, Abyss, Legion, Blight, and Ritual. Now, I also take out Metamorph in my early to mid game, but I think Metamorph, for the sake of the quote early, is you can save the point, I guess, for now. You could, this could be your, your next point in if you really want to, but I think Metamorph actually is like pretty easy. It's pretty passive, right? Because you don't have to go out of your way to do anything. It doesn't slow you down, so it's not all bad. Now, looking at the other nodes here, it's pretty similar to what you might have seen last league, right? I think the standard kind of core operating here with these strong boxes, the essences, you go deep in there, deep in here, you grab these up here. Now, the other thing that's changed that I'm adding in is this new node, Stream of Consciousness. I think this has potential to be very powerful. Your maps cannot be modified by fragments. Your maps have 50% more base chance to connect your content. I think when you're just kind of, especially early game, just like Alkin going, just running maps, just trying to do completions and things like that, this could be really strong for juicing up your maps very passively. So I think this is a very strong node and something that I think has a lot of potential to be very profitable. Of course, let's see how it plays out, but I think this has a lot of potential. Now, moving into the sort of early-ish mid-game, early to mid-game, somewhere in there, this is the sort of tree I'm moving forward with. So I'm still keeping my strong boxes and essences. Then we're leaning more though into Harvest and Expedition. I took a few extra strong box nodes up here, but also I kind of took the ring of quantity and rarity nodes here. So we got all these quantity in the set on the outskirt and then the quantity and rarity in the middle. But other than that, I took basically all of the expedition and harvest nodes that made sense. Again, this is kind of in the pre-scarab phase. So, for example, like you wouldn't want to take this 1% chance for expedition. You'd kind of maybe skirt around it if necessary because you don't want that extra 1%. Same thing here. Like you don't want these extra 1% nodes up here because you're going to be, if you're forcing them into the scarab, which is the most efficient way, you don't need these, right? It's just not necessary. So essentially, I'm leaning into those things. Now, again, this is in the pre-phase while you still are keeping nodes like these where you have your 1% chance higher. We're again, not quite in the full mid-late game-ish area. But I've also kept this node here because I think that even in this stage, this node could be very powerful. I might choose to take this off at a later stage if I realize that, I don't need it, or I really want to see if I can experiment with, mixing in some frags and things like that. But I think this is a really powerful node and not to be underestimated. So my main plan is to kind of go big on Expedition, strong boxes, essence, and harvest. That's going to be kind of my core, at least in the beginning. Now, you note here, I didn't take any boss nodes up here or anything like that. That's because this tree is not for that. This tree is for sort of map blasting and grinding currency. I'll get to the kind of the boss nodes when I get to the sort of later part of the game when I've got a really strong build and I feel like I can handle a lot of these uber bosses and I think it makes sense. But for now, I just kind of want to farm up a lot of currency. That's my goal. So I think this tree is as good as any to start off with that. Of course, I'm sure people are going to say there's more efficient ways to do this or more efficient ways to do that. But honestly, I think that this tree is pretty solid. I had a very similar-ish tree that I was using last league, and it served me quite well. I made a lot of currency doing it. So I'm pretty confident that this tree will perform. Of course, things have changed slightly on the Atlas and in the game in general, but on the whole, I think this is quite a strong tree. Now, when I get to the actual mid-late game, we're doing scarabs and things like that. You'll have to respec this significantly, and I will maybe provide an update there when I get there. But I like to play the Atlas kind of free ball. I just kind of do what feels right at the time. I switch between content quite a bit. Sometimes I'll do heist, sometimes I'll do expedition, sometimes I'll do boss farming. You know, I'm kind of all over the place. But I do think that this is a really strong tree, and I really enjoy all these things, and that's why I'm picking them. So, and I think that's the most important thing. So anyway, what are you guys doing for your trees? What are you guys going to focus on? Let me know in the comments. Please remember to like, subscribe, all that good stuff. It really does help, and I do appreciate it. And I am so excited for 3.18, and I will see you guys there in just a couple days.